But first, Iran sending a message to U.S. President Donald Trump saying it will not surrender and any strike by Washington will have serious consequences. In a televised message, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei added that Iranians do not answer well to the language of threat. Khamenei's words come as the U.S. president weighs his next move, with tensions between Israel and Iran spiraling into a sixth day of conflict. The American leader earlier demanded Iran's unconditional surrender, posting on social media that he knows where the country's leader is but won't kill him, quote, for now. Just a few hours later, Tehran not paying heed to Mr. Trump's pressure, saying it fired hypersonic missiles at Israel in its latest round of fire. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has vowed that his country would show no mercy towards Israel's leadership, while the country's ambassador to the UN has called Mr. Trump's remarks unwarranted and very hostile. He added that Iran will respond firmly if the US becomes directly involved in Israeli strikes. Now, the latest wave of attacks between the arch-foes saw Israel targeting a centrifuge site in Tehran, as well as weapons manufacturing facilities. The IDF said more than 50 Israeli fighter jets were deployed for the operation. Iran, meanwhile, fired a barrage of drones and missiles towards Israel, triggering several sirens across the country, with Tehran urging citizens of major Israeli cities to evacuate. The U.S. also saying it is closing its embassy in Jerusalem until Friday amid the growing conflict. Well, let's get more now from Jagruti Dave, joining us live from Washington, D.C. Jagruti, patience with Iran seemingly wearing thin. What options then is the U.S. president considering?
Well, these are the options that he appears to be weighing after meeting with his national security advisors for over an hour on Tuesday. He left the G7 summit in Canada early in order to do this. And he, although the White House has not issued a statement to say what was in those discussions, we can perhaps infer from some of the things that are being said publicly. So, of course, Donald Trump called, as you say, for the unconditional surrender of Iran, which Iran's supreme leader rejected, saying that Iran is not one to surrender. Donald Trump has also ramped up his threatening language directly on the supreme leader, saying the US knows where he is and that he is an easy target, but is safe for now, indicating that he has, perhaps the United States has, asked Israel to hold off on any targeting of the supreme leader. But there are serious questions that are being asked about what Donald Trump does next. Some experts are saying that perhaps this uncertainty that Donald Trump is creating is a strategic move. A lot of world leaders do this in order to gain maximum leverage in a difficult situation like this. And this could be something that the Trump team is thinking in order to put more pressure on Iran to get them to capitulate. On the other hand, it could be that sources are suggesting to US media that the United States, the Trump administration, Donald Trump himself, is seriously considering closer involvement by the United States, despite having previously asked Israel to hold off, but also said that the United States is not involved in any strikes that have taken place and the US is not getting involved.
Well, Mr. Trump also will be cognizant on public opinion on this matter. To what extent will domestic opinion on the ground factor into his decision-making?
I think it'll be a big factor. Not only is Donald Trump in a tricky position because he might find that Iran calls his bluff if he is indeed bluffing, but he's also, remember, he was elected on the promise that he would end American involvement in foreign wars, the forever wars, as he called them. And you're hearing from some of Donald Trump's supporters who are concerned about these reports that the United States could get more closely involved in direct intervention in Iran. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congresswoman who has been a staunch Trump supporter. She is saying things like, people in my district, we support Donald Trump, but going into war with Iran, intervention in Iran is not going to lower gas prices, for example, for my constituents. So these are some of the considerations. You've got strong Donald Trump supporters who voted for him because they remember Iraq, Afghanistan. They do not want the US involved in those forever wars, as Donald Trump called it. So I think they will play a big part in his decision-making.
Jagruti, we leave it there for now. Thank you so much for that live report, Jagruti Dave in Washington, D.C. Now, let's go straight to Tehran, where Trent Murray is standing by with more. Now, Trent, we're entering day 6, a day short of a week. Give us the latest on the ground, as well as a sense of where both sides stand.
Well, we know here in Tel Aviv we've seen several waves of Iranian missile attacks over the past 12 hours or so, once again predominantly concentrated in the early hours of the morning under dark. We know that the Israeli Defense Force is saying that during those waves of attack, the country's air defense systems were largely able to intercept most of them. The ambulance service here is not reporting any injuries or casualties from that wave of missile attacks. The casualty numbers here in Israel still are at 24, mostly concentrated over those big barrages that we saw over the weekend. On the military front, we are also hearing that around 50 Israeli Air Force fighter jets have been hitting targets across the Iranian capital. The Israelis are saying they've been targeting a centrifuge manufacturing site, a key kind of piece in the puzzle for Iran's nuclear program, military sites, and also reportedly a university, which the Israelis claim is linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Now, we, of course, have been monitoring those press statements and televised addresses from the Ayatollah, where it seems the escalation ladder here is continuing to be climbed up by both sides. Of course, the Iranians are threatening to not show mercy towards Israel, but certainly right now, from an IDF perspective, they are saying that that military operation is going to continue, and they are also pointing to the fact that the latest waves of missiles are much smaller in number than what we saw over the weekend, suggesting that they are starting to seriously deplete Iran's missile stockpiles and also, crucially, its missile launches across the country.
We're also hearing some calibrations surrounding a particular Israeli asset, and that is the missile interceptors. What's going on there?
There's a report in the Wall Street Journal that Israel is running low on a particular type of missile interceptor used in its Arrow 3 system. Now, this is its advanced system, which is used to shoot down ballistic missiles at high altitude. We certainly will often hear the launches of them across the country as they fire up very high in the sky and prevent those warheads landing on the ground here. This is just one report, and there are several Israeli reports suggesting that that is not the case, particularly given that the Israelis have been somewhat surprised by the lower numbers of Iranian responses in terms of the number of missiles that are being fired. There are some suggestions that in the early days of this war, they were expecting potentially thousands of missiles to come, and they were prepared for that, but that has not eventuated. We should just also mention that on top of Israel's multi-layered air defense system, there are, of course, also US assets in this region, Navy destroyers, as well as Air Force jets, which are assisting the Israelis. So, look, I think on first glance, it is a concerning report if Israel is reportedly starting to run low on its interceptor missiles. But again, it is just one report, and the Israelis here are exercising a lot of caution towards that story, denying that it's true.
Yep, thanks for that perspective, Trent Murray, reporting live from Tel Aviv. Thank you.